Good afternoon. My name is Alpheaus. I'm a community advocate here in New York City, and I'd like to welcome you to Truth to Power for an Urban Agenda. Today's topic, we'll talk about the skyrocketing rents, the reasons for these rents, and who actually gets put out when it's all said and done for these rents. So, the other day, we got a message from a avid watcher who discussed the fact that rent where he was staying at was $4,000 here in New York City. You look at the pandemic, you look at the effects of it, you look at people's ability to make money during a time where they're out of work. $4,000 is unreasonable. We're going to talk about how these rents actually get to a market value that's outside of some of our normal daily living as well as our budgets. So, how do we do that? How do we actually look at the whole spectrum of the rents? First, we got to look at the developers. Developers are building these properties and they're utilizing tax dollars to do so. And when I say tax dollars, they're using it under the guise of affordable housing. And they get these grants for these affordable houses where they pay 25% and the government gives them the rest for 75%. So when you have these developments go up, what ends up taking place in today's time? We see 2 to 3 bedrooms being rented out for rooms at anywhere from $1,200 to $1,600 a piece for one room. When you look at a 2-bedroom apartment at $1,600, right, that's $3,200 market value. This is what they're saying they're getting off because they're renting the rooms out. Unimaginable. They have the real estate developments. Real estate developments have sub-companies, which are the management companies. And what they do in turn is they want to see what your budget is like so they can actually figure out how they're going to rip you off because you need a place to stay. Who's held accountable for it? No one. Here's why. Majority of our elected officials, they get their campaign funded from the real estate developers. So they price out the average people that's making money that can't really sustain a lifestyle because what was my guy that did it when he ran for governor? The rent is too damn high. Can you imagine that? Imagine you and your family looking for a nice community. And when you go to apply for the rent and you see the rent, it's either the happiness and security of your family or you go to the hood and engage in what we call gentrification. And pretty soon, some of the hoods is actually, turning a different shade of color. So when we look at what's going on, this is why it's important. And it all goes back to voting, who we put in office. Because a lot of these developers, like I said, they get these blocks of land, blocks and lots for tax incentive purposes. And usually these incentives go for 99 years, and they probably pay less than $100 for the yearly taxes, annual taxes. But they make so much money in between the times that they go into the incentives, their contracts with the city, and you yourself, you end up spending a lot of money to eventually go into a shelter. How does that make anybody feel? Some people have a lot of anger behind this because when you look at the mom and pops and the way it's affected some of the communities, it's horrible. You can't make any money because when you go to apply for some of these rental spaces, just like the apartments, they're figuring out how much you make. Because on an apartment, they want to know your salary, right? And based off your salary is how they charge their rent process. So Are they really trying to provide a service for you, or are they really trying to find a way to get into your pocket? We need politicians that's going to really fight for us, because this is what's necessary. You cannot survive here in New York City. And we've seen it. The pandemic. A lot of us wasn't prepared for it. A lot of us have to actually apply for rental assistance. And when you look at the rental assistance, why? Because the rent is too high. We haven't prepared for it. And guess who still gets paid? The developers. So, to answer that guy's question in regards to what can we do to change the narrative of high rents, we need regulations. If you're going to give these people the lands for a certain incentive, then you should actually have them, with these incentives, lower the actual rental fees, because it's hurting people. If the AMI on a federal level is 61,000, and with the incentives you go 60%, then the other 40%, it shouldn't be as high as it should be. Because when you look at people's income in this dead time, it's not where you think it should be. Just look at what's going on. We have countless thousands of people that's homeless. We have countless people who have businesses that can no longer operate. So who makes the money? How do they make their money? They can't, because we have greedy developers. Greedy developers, greedy politicians. Who suffers? The working class people. So why do we stress voting, knowing who it is that we're supposed to vote for, what agendas they have for our communities? Because issues like this, problems like this, who is going to go against the real estate developers so that the constituents and the everyday people can actually have a quality means of living? It has to happen. And this is why you should demand that every person that's running for office come to your community and engage y'all, so you know who it is that you're voting for. You shouldn't just vote because it's down the line, or because I don't like this person because what somebody else said. You should do your research. And once you do your research, you'll come to find out some of these guys that you're voting for, they're not really for you. And those that should be there, the parties are the ones that says, no, we're not going with that guy right now. We're going with this guy because he could bring in the money. It's no longer about the constituents. We have to get back to the constituents, the everyday people that votes. And you're going to like the next segment that I do, because it's mind-blowing. But as of right now, we're going to stick with this one here. Know who you voting for, know what they do within your community, and please be active within your community board so that you understand and know who it is that's building and how they're going to raise the rents. Thank you.